Welcome to this IEECP Lunch Seminar. We are the Institute for European Energy and Climate Policy, and today we organize the session on the SENSEI project brought to you by Filippos Anagnostopoulos, who is the coordinator of this Horizon 2020 program-funded project. Filippos, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Maureen, for the introduction. And thank you all for joining today at your lunchtime. I'm quite happy actually to present the SENSEI project. It is nearing its end. It started in September 2019. So in the next few months, we will be finalizing. And today I would like to present to you within the next 20 minutes or so our main motivation behind it, how it fits in the EU agenda, what is its main concept, the Pay-for-Performance, how we have drawn on the experience from the United States. I also want to present to you the basic idea that is enabling all of this, which is advanced monitoring and verification. And then I want to present to you the way forward, which is the model we have created on how pay-for-performance schemes could look like in Europe, and also offer an example of how this might be, and end with a few actionable points for how to set up a pay-for-performance scheme. So we know about the multiple benefits of energy efficiency. We also know that about 40% of EU's final energy consumption is from buildings. So as a result, energy efficiency has a lot to offer there. First of all, and it's relevant for our circumstances over the past few months, energy efficiency can very much reduce the import dependency of the EU, especially on gas. Energy efficiency, of course, reduces the overall amount of energy used, reduces CO2 emissions. It allows for an easier transition to clean energy. And of course, it has other benefits, such as alleviating energy poverty, health and well-being benefits, employment, and so on. So where do we stand with renovations? Unfortunately, we haven't been advancing with the required speed. The renovation rates are at or below 1%, and usually these are not deep renovations. So we have, for example, energy performance contracting, which has proven to be quite successful, but this is mostly in single and large projects, such as the one on your screen. And this is applied in municipality buildings, schools, hospitals, the so-called MASH market. EPCs in this case require that a building owner can offer a large building, and that either the ESCO is large enough to secure a loan to finance this retrofit, or that the building owner has this capacity to invest in the energy efficiency of the building, which is not always the case. Actually, usually it's not the case. Then we also have public energy efficiency programs, whose typical approach is to finance using tax rebates or incentives that are usually paid up front. The monitoring of the effectiveness of these programs and savings is usually on predetermined, so-called deemed savings that are linked to specific energy efficiency measures. And here we have a misalignment of incentives because payments are made with little accountability as to the results. So payments are made based on the materials that were installed and how much energy was actually saved. And then we also have the financial institutions which need to finance this transition. For energy efficiency to be attractive to them, they must have very low transaction and administrative costs, and the projects must be large enough, so we're speaking in the excess of 5 million or 50 million, and they also must be associated with consistent and long-term cash flows. So what the SENSEI project set out to do in this context is to investigate the potential of these pay-for-performance schemes that we're seeing in the United States to aggregate retrofit projects, to improve the effectiveness of current subsidy programs, and then going a step further to also reward energy efficiency as an energy resource and also as a service to the grid. A year after we started the project, in October of 2020, the European Commission came out with its communication of the renovation wave, in which it mentions Pay4Performance. And I read, it states that member states can scale up market incentives, such as Pay4Performance public support schemes, and attract private intermediaries and aggregators. It also identifies that this can be done through existing energy efficiency obligation schemes. So, and engage these new intermediaries, include utilities, offer technical expertise, reduce transaction costs, administrative costs, as we see that is required by financial institutions. So what is this Pay4Performance? At its most basic is the concept that, as you read, payments for energy efficiency need to be based on measured savings. So it's an innovative approach to financing, and it allows to aggregate projects into portfolios that will help attract investments from private funds that are looking to invest in these bigger projects, also with an improved risk management strategy because of the aggregation. So even if some projects underperform, most of the projects will be above baseline. We also can use Pay4Performance to improve subsidy schemes for energy efficiency that are currently based on these pre-assumed or deemed savings, and this can be done by replacing these one-off payments with more periodic payments that can be proportional to the measured energy savings. And here it's important to say that these metered savings are estimated using advanced measurement and verification techniques that has to be previously agreed upon by all participants in the program. And lastly, very importantly, Pay4Performance schemes allow to recognize energy efficiency as a demand-side energy resource by quantifying its benefits for the energy system and generating cash flow for benefiting parties, for example, TSOs and DSOs. Now, to start all of this, we looked at the US. And we were actually inspired with what has been taking on place there. And we engaged with them to see exactly what were the benefits. So an important one is that they found that this is an effective way to engage in energy efficiency, both the energy providers and third-party investors. And this allows to channel largest amounts of financing towards energy efficiency projects. Specific benefits include the use of energy efficiency as a demand-side grid infrastructure in order to avoid the need of these technical upgrades and extensions of network infrastructure that are needed due to congestion or actually very high demand. This is known also as these non-wires alternatives. We also saw the use, and still ongoing of course, of energy efficiency as a demand-side energy resource, where it is making it possible to participate in capacity auctions, and this is by offering a reduction of energy demand for specific time periods and for specific locations. And we also see that Pay4Performance schemes can be used to optimize energy efficiency programs, where the measures that are to be implemented can be directed to the sectors and to the customers where deeper savings are economically possible. All of this, of course, has been made possible because of the advancements in measurement and verification over the past couple of decades. Essentially, advanced measurement and verification for energy efficiency is comparing the energy consumption after energy efficiency measures with what the energy consumption would have been had not the energy efficiency measures been applied. So this is done by measuring the energy performance of a building over a long period of time, preferably with smart meters. If you have a baseline of a year or more, then it's possible to very accurately actually determine what the energy demand of that building will be in the future. And using this baseline as a counterfactual, there's a comparison with the metered savings. Of course, things like COVID and other extreme events have caused us to reevaluate some of those assumptions, and even more robust methods have been developing in the last 2 years. So monitoring and verification 2.0, as it's called sometimes, offers better accuracy, reliability, and much more transparency to all actors that are using this energy saving estimates. Another very important thing is that this advanced monitoring and verification enables the modernization of energy efficiency markets, as we're seeing in the case of pay-for-performance schemes, and also allows the creation of rather innovative delivery mechanisms. And of course, it pushes for a revision of policies and standardized approaches to how we are estimating energy savings. For those that are more interested in this, you can look at IPMVP. They have set very much international standards on it. Caltrack, that has been used in California extensively. And SENSEI has also developed our own machine-based open source software called Insight. This is available on our website. So bringing all of this together, the SENSEI project is able at this point to propose a model for how pay-for-performance schemes can be established in the EU. On the left-hand side, you see the finance providers, and on the right-hand side, the system for exploiting this energy efficiency potential that exists in our buildings. The various blue arrows indicate upfront investments. The orange arrows are periodic payments based on performance. And green arrows are data flows. Now, in this schematic, the energy efficiency aggregator is very much central, and this is not an aggregator of demand response as we usually know them. An energy efficiency aggregator actually has the ability to amass a much greater potential for reduction of demand. So what this entity does is that it's bundling individual energy efficiency projects together into portfolios. It links them to ESCOs and also secures financing through entities that are looking to finance energy efficiency projects. These ones on the left-hand side. These financial flows then are coming from these public authorities that are subsidizing energy efficiency programs, from TSOs and DSOs that are interested in using demand-side resources for the grid, and also by financial institutions that expect long-term returns on investment and perhaps also have some ESG or climate goals. Now in the right-hand side, in this big box, you can see how financial flows, so the blue arrows, are channeled by the aggregator to the ESCOs, which have the technical expertise to implement energy efficiency measures in buildings. And here it needs to be noted that it's within the capacity of the ESCO to implement innovative technologies or combinations of them that whose savings cannot be deemed, but whose performance is eventually measured. So based on what is implemented in a building in the context of the usual energy performance contracts, or leveraging energy performance contracts, is then measured with advanced monitoring and verification. So the savings that are estimated using these advanced MNV techniques result to periodic payments across the system that are based on performance and are collected from building owners and distributed via the aggregator to ESCOs and financial institutions. At the same time, based on the energy demand reduction, this can be communicated to power system operators, which in turn pay the aggregator for the energy savings that have been achieved. Similarly, with public subsidies, essentially paying a premium for having the certainty that what has been funded is indeed delivered. Now, it needs to be noted that such a pay-for-performance program is rather unlikely to emerge on its own bottom-up. and it needs an enabling market and a legal framework that need to be set in place. And for those activities, a facilitator is required to drive the development of the program. So this market facilitator has the objective of facilitating the creation of energy efficiency programs by analyzing, for example, market conditions, proposing adaptations to the regulatory and market framework where that is needed, defining minimum energy saving standards, setting enabling rules, for example, when it comes to procurement, and also providing the right infrastructure when that is needed. Very briefly, for public energy efficiency funds, these Pay4P programs enable the public authorities to have certainty of the effectiveness of public subsidies by using advanced monitoring and verification. For power system operators, these advanced monitoring and verification techniques that are used can make it possible to evaluate the effect of demand-side measures, so TSOs and DSOs can invest in measures that contribute to grid stability, avoid congestion, or costly infrastructure upgrades, as we have seen in the case of the US. And also these savings can be counted towards their energy efficiency obligations, which can be a much better way of spending the funds. Finally, financial institutions are provided with the possibility to invest in these large aggregated portfolios of energy efficiency. And with this aggregation, they help manage risk, meet the demands for lower administrative costs, due diligence, standardization, and so on. Now, this group includes the likes of commercial banks, but also pension funds, and even larger institutions such as the EBRD or the EIB. It is also important to mention that this model is actually only one of several options available when building a P4P program. The very much concrete specifications of each P4P program that can be built under this framework will then have to be decided in consultation with involved stakeholders of the market where this will be applied, and adjustments, of course, will need to be made in the regulatory framework. This can be quite abstract, so let me offer an example of how this could look. And here is an example of how energy efficiency can be considered a demand-side resource. So let's go through the step. Let's assume that a power system operator, a DSO in this case, issues a tender for energy efficiency aggregators to reduce the overall energy demand that's applied to the grid. Then there is a successful aggregator among the bidders, which can then secure financing from financial institutions based on this new contract. The aggregator can use data from the DSO to analyze buildings, find where is the potential for the biggest energy savings, and then establish an agreement with a few ESCOs to renovate the buildings of building owners that were actually interested in this program. Following the renovations, actually before the renovations, payments will need to be made to ESCOs, so channeling financing from financial institutions to ESCOs to actually run the renovation project. After the renovations, usually after 1 year, based on the achieved savings, the aggregator will receive financial flows from DSOs. So the savings are measured, the operator sees it and can pay the aggregator. And this is usually for a set price of kilowatt hour saved. Then based on this on this cash flow, the aggregator can pay back the financial institution and any difference to the ESCOs, either for overperformance or underperformance. Now, this is all interesting, but still it's not really applicable in the US, in the EU. The concept to pay for a performance seems very reasonable, natural, but it's not really happening in buildings very often. So how could we go about establishing such a scheme? Based on experience from the US, we can identify 5 distinct steps. And the first one is commitment. We need to recognize the importance of energy efficiency as an energy resource at a high level. So we're speaking at the regulatory, legislative, and also on the level of TSOs, DSOs, and utilities. And there needs to be a commitment to pilot energy efficiency programs that are based on pay-for-performance and on metered savings. At this level, the role of ministries is quite important. Second is facilitation. And here we need to designate a competent managing authority, can be an energy agency or a government entity, that will be tasked to oversee and support the co-design and execution of pilots to define minimum energy saving standards, set the enabling rules, the right infrastructure, and so on. Very importantly, as you saw, we need advanced monitoring and verification. So here we need to develop or adopt an existing open and transparent methodology for measuring savings using MRV tools such as IPMVP, Caltract, or Insight. These, of course, as you saw earlier, increase accuracy and transparency to all stakeholders involved. Fourth very important step is procurement. The interesting entity, as the case was earlier at DSO, can issue tenders for energy efficiency projects that adopt a pay-for-performance approach, and also include a compensation structure that is based on meter savings. These procurements will also need to provide favorable conditions, at least in the beginning, to secure involvement of stakeholders, and also include, for example, some predictability, perhaps through guarantees or other financial support through subsidies. Eventually, we need to evaluate this and repeat by gathering insights, know-how from the first pilots, conducting capacity building activities, strengthening the role of market actors, repeating by piloting further, improving the approach, making further refinements, for example, on the various payment structures. And at this point, I would also like to open an invitation to those of you that are participating today or listening to the recording. If you are involved or interested to be involved in any one of the steps, you are very much welcome to get in contact within the next couple of months. This work has, of course, been only an overview of the work that we have been doing over the past, well, over 2.5 years with very capable colleagues from these institutions. You will be able to find much more about our work on our SENSEI website, where you have our deliverables or things like the documentation of the Insight tool. You'll also find us on Twitter. And again, for any questions that you might have, please get in contact with me. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention.